The test review for the section on parallel lines and conditional statements proofs. So, first thing, we're looking at a drawing with a set of parallel lines. You see the indicators telling you they're parallel. And I'm asking you the type of relationship between the two angles that are listed. So when I focus on angle 2 and angle 8, first thing I should notice is they are in two different groups. 2's vertex is right here, and there's a group of angles that it has in the basic groups, like from last chapter, verticals, complementary, supplementary, that type are in one group together. But 8 is up here with the vertex there, and there's its group. So they're in two different groups. So this is the type of relationships that we learned in this chapter. It will be something to do with the parallels. So we start thinking about the parallels and saying, okay, here is one, here's the other. Are the two angles that we're mentioning, are they in between or not between? So if they're interior or exterior is a major feature, and these two are both interior. So then you consider the transversal that connects them, and the transversal is what, that one line that goes between them, and that's where the relationship comes in. It's because that line is going to be the same set of angles for both, but you have them mixed up in different orders. So are they on the same side of that green transversal? And that's no. So instead of same side interior, these would be alternate interior angles. Okay, so then we're going to look at 4 and 6, and you see that they're doing the same thing. That's another set of alternate interior. 4 and 6, they're both on the interior. They're not on the same side of this transversal, they're on opposite sides. So that's another alternate interior. Let's close. All right, 7 and 5. I'm going to clean it up here so we can see what we're looking at. Angle 7 and angle 5. Same thing still applies. We're focusing on those parallels. If you need to, use the angle legs, use your pencil, use your finger, and say, okay, there's my parallels. Are they interior or exterior? Easy question to ask. They're both exterior. Are they on the same side or alternate sides of the transversal? So they're on alternate. So that will be alternate exterior. Okay. 5 and 8. So now we get, here's 8 and here's 5. Now focus on your parallels again. Are they both interior? Are they both exterior? No. So it's not going to be an interior. It's not going to be an exterior. They're still in different groups. There's one on the top group and there's one on the bottom group. But when they're in those different groups like that, you're going to have to think a little closer. These are in the same exact position. When I think of that group, let me clean it up here. When I think of the group at the top, I think of the group at the bottom, the 5 and the 8 are both on the bottom left of their group. See that? Bottom left. This one is the bottom left from this vertex and this vertex. So they're in the same position, and that's called corresponding. My job corresponds with my old job. Same job, just new position. Same position right there. All right. Just new location. All right, so it's 2 and 7. Careful with that one. And we see 7 is an exterior, 2 is an interior. So if they're both, you know, one's on the inside, one's on the outside, don't call it interior, don't call it exterior. You got to have them both in the same, both interior or both exterior. You can't have one or the other. So is this another corresponding? Are they in that same position for the group? So top right, top right. So yes, that's another corresponding for number 5. Corresponding. All right, and then finally we have 4 and 8. So don't forget your basics. 4 and 8 both have this vertex. They share vertex. So we go back to our old stuff that we used to do. Are they vertical? No. Are they complementary with a right angle? No. Are they side by side up against a straight line? Yes. So there's the straight line, and together they'll make 180. So that is old stuff, supplementary. You can always look for those old relationships with them. All right, next we have missing angles, and we have a 60-degree angle and we have a 100-degree angle. So the first thing you should do, okay, we do have parallels, they're going to jump, but let's start with the group. The ones around the 60 in the same group, those basic relationships are right here. We got a vertical, put 60, we got a supplementary, even though you think you don't need it, supplementary sitting on top of that straight line, 120, say 180 minus 60 gives you 120. All right, and 120 for the other vertical. Okay, so get that whole group. Same thing with the 100, the vertical, and then 180 minus 100, 80, and 80. So now we've got all of that filled in. We're ready to make something jump to the other parallel. Make that a little smaller, it's kind of large. Okay, and you've got a couple of them that you found. You can go back and fill in the numbers in the plots later. Alright, so we need to find all these up here. And that's going to be a little trickier. You're going to have to make it jump with the parallels. The parallel lines have that relationship. So if you put your angle legs on there to focus, there's your parallel. And we've got 2 transversals, one coming down this way and another one going this way. Well, you can't focus on both at the same time, so let's just pick one to focus on. Let's pick this one right here. Doesn't matter which one you start with. If I focus on that transversal, then I'm only going to look there. I'm not going to look at any of this group right here. I'm just looking at this one that goes down into this group. This group is what's going to jump up here. Now, it's not going to be a perfect match because this has an extra line cutting up one of these angles, and so we'll have to see what's in that position. But just like we've done in the past, what's in the same position as this 80 right here? This 80 is on the bottom right of this group. So if that group, if I move and slide that group up, it will end up here. Where's the same position? The bottom right? Right in here. The bottom right of that group is the 80. And it's easier to focus on the smaller angles. Where would this 100 end up? Let's do the vertical. Sorry, go back. 80. We got a vertical 80 right there, straight across from making the X. But where would this 100 go? It would be, all of this would be 100. It's not going to be split in half. We don't know if those are 2 equal pieces, and they're probably not. So instead of putting the 100 there, let's just keep that in the back of our mind and not write it up there. Just move the smaller angles, the 80s. That's enough right there because we're not through. We still got this other transversal to look at. So out of this group, the 80s move, the smaller ones. Top left is in the top left, see, corresponding. And then 80 on the bottom right matches 80 on the bottom right. So now we're going to look at the other corresponding, and that'll be right here. The other transversal coming through. So we have another set that we're going to focus on. This group is going to jump up and match this group. It's just going to focus there. We're not going to look at the 80s anymore. We're just going to focus here. Out of this group, what's the smaller, easier ones to do? Those 60s, yes. So the 60, let's focus on 160. The 60 right here is the bottom left of its group. Talking about that yellow group right there on the, out of this group, that's the bottom left. Where is it going to move to? When I come up here, the bottom left. That'll be right here. Even though you think you don't need it, when you put the vertical on there, look at there. There's angle 10 So 60, 60, and 60. I have 60 and 60, bottom left, down here, top right, top right. It jumps from parallel to parallel, and they match. Don't worry about the bigger ones, 120. Okay? Couple ways you can find the middle angle. You can go back to where we talked about earlier, the 100. Remember how we said the 100 was going to be these two together? Okay? They are going to be that together. 100 and we have a 60, so 100 minus 60 leaves us 40 for the middle. You can check it, because that's kind of weird, I know. You can check it. That made 100. You can check it by doing the other side with the 120. See how the 120 is right here? The top left up here, 120. Does 80 and 40 make 120 the same way? Yes. It's going to be that same angle. When I focus on that angle, look at that. It's in the same exact position. It looks the same size too. If they're parallel, they're going to be the same size. Okay? The ones in that same position, 120, 120. All right. And if that throws you off trying to look at all those little angles like that, you could also find the 40 by going back old school method and saying, look here, straight line. How much should all that sitting on top of it be? 180. So if I need 180, subtract 80, subtract 60, and I'm going to get 40 there again. Okay? And then, of course, the vertical right here for 12 is going to be 40. Alright, this must have gotten a little out of order. No, this is the one at the bottom. Okay. Alright, so we've got a 50-degree angle here. We're going to have to fill that in ourselves. 50 degrees. You might want to do this one before you take off that other one. That one's a little easier. This is easier. Same thing we did before. Let's do the verticals. Okay. Supplementaries, old school, 180 gives me 130, 130, and then the jump. Everything there matches. Top left, I got 130. Bottom right, I got 130. Top right, I got 50. Bottom left, I got 50. And then you're just filling in your numbers. Okay? They'll be on the side when the time comes. Alright, here's our proof. Now, the proof will be from your notes. You've got several in your notes now. We did that activity. So go back and study them. It's not a memorizing thing. It is a working it out thing and thinking about the steps that you have to do. Okay? I'm going to get my little lovely face out of the way. Alright, so this is going to be a matching problem. So all you're going to have to do is look on these choices and pick out the one that goes over here. Now, there's going to be extras that you don't use. You could use them more than once. So you know that could happen. You could have the same thing 2 times in a row, or you could have the same thing spread out. You could have 2 givens. It could be any which way. Okay? It is not going to be this one on the test. It'll be a different one on the test, but this is just how it's going to look. So be ready for that. Let's read over here. You're given A is parallel to B. Okay? Got that on there. And you're also given that XYW is 50. So that's not on the drawing. I'm going to have to put that on there. Some of them you'll have to put on there anyway. So XYW is 50. Put that in. That's given. We want to prove that TRY, so that's this one right in here, is going to be 130, but I don't want to put that on there right now. I don't know that it's 130. That's not given to me. That's what I'm trying. How do I know this is going to end in 1? You can't just say it's given. Only thing that's given is what's right here by the given, and you go from there. All right, so first step. Do not miss the first step. What's number 1 always? Given. You gotta have a problem given to you. Was it one part, two parts? We got the parallel, we got 50. So all the given is right here. Sometimes they'll separate it and put it other places, but that's all. That is exactly like the given up here. So that's all you put is that. Okay, it's not in two different sections. Okay, all right, it's on there. Let's look at the angle. XYW, that's the one we had the 50 on, is congruent to YRS. So you're going to have to really remember how to follow the name of your angle. YRS, here's Y, here's R, here's S. So we're comparing this angle right in there, that bottom angle, to the 50 that we already put the number on. So we got to think, why would these two be congruent? They have a name. Are they vertical? No. Are they supplementary? No. This is something about the parallels jumping. Are they both interior to the parallels? Here's A and B. Are those both interior? No. Are they both exterior? No. So what's that leave us? Corresponding. Corresponding angles are congruent. All you got to put is letter G. Corresponding. So in the blank over here, you'll be putting G, this was B. That's how I want it on the test, with the letter put in there. And make it neat. Don't make your G look like a C. Okay? Alright, so we got that. Number 3. YRS equals 50. Now, we just said those were equal, right? So, what are we doing? We're moving this 50 down. We already know these match, so that means I can put the 50 down here to match it. What's that step called? That's your transitive. You already had them equal, so now you're moving the 50 that you already had. XYW equals 50, XYW equals YRS, YRS equals 50. There were 3 things, and they were equal, 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 all in a row like that. So, transitive property. Okay, that one's a little tricky for people, but it's like I've already know they match, so I'm just transferring that information down to make it happen. Okay, if you know you've got the same amount of money as somebody else and they got 20 bucks, then that information just kind of transmits in your head, and you know that means you have 50. All right, so number 4 is totally out of the blue. That's something totally new. All of a sudden they're talking about 180. We haven't said anything about anything being 180 yet. So let's go look. TRY would be added to YRS. Where's TRY? TRY right here. Added to YRS to make 180. What is that called when they're sitting there like that? You know it. Supplementary. So that would be answer E. Answer E. Alright. Now, so that was kind of out of the blue, and so that's good to go think about the drawing and think about the definition. You got to think about what you're looking at on the drawing. And see how I'm drawing all over it? You got to be doing that too as you go. Put the steps on there. Alright. Now, on 4 to 5, look at it. That's almost the exact same thing. I got 180. I got TRY. What changed? This one little thing changed. YRS changed to a 50. Well, can they do that? What did we just say up here in number 3? YRS is equal to 50. So what we're doing is we're replacing it. And another word for replace is substitution. Good. So substitution, that would be A. One guy's going out, another guy's going in. Okay, and that's in an equation. This is not transitive. Transitive is when I already know some stuff are equal, so I can just place these other things equal to it. This is just one guy being taken out, or one little variable being taken out and replaced with a number. Okay. All right, so finally, we were working an equation, right? On number 5, go back and look at 5. And look here. This was an equation. This is some math that could be done, and that's what they did. What would you normally do to work this out? You'd move the 50 by subtracting. So final thing is subtraction property, and that is D. So this is how you need to think through those steps. There's not a 7 and an 8 to get this worked out. Right? Notice there's some stuff that didn't get used. That's okay. Right? You're going to have leftovers, so don't let that throw you off. Study what's in your notes. Go through them. Set up the problem. See if you can match it up with the right answers. Don't look at the answers like I got them on here. See if you can just fill them in. Okay. All right. The inverse, write the inverse, converse, and contrapositive of each. The inverse is when you just put in something's happening here. Okay. All right. So the inverse, converse, contrapositive. Inverse is when you just put knots into the problem. So if the angles form a linear pair, then the angles will have a sum of 180. You will say if angles do not, you can put an extra little helping verb, but make sure you're putting the not, do not form a linear pair, comma, then the angles, I'm not having enough room here, you'll do better, do not have a sum of 180. Okay, so the main thing is you're putting in the knots to both the hypothesis and the conclusion. The part after the if and the part after the then. All right, the converse, somewhere I should be able to do. Okay, all right, converse is when you switch the hypothesis and conclusion. So this would still start with the word if, but you switch up what comes after the if and after the then. If the angles have a sum of 180, then they form, angles form linear pair. So you're just switching the two parts around. All right. And then finally, contrapositive does both. It switches it and it puts in the knots. So, if angles do not have a sum, I know my handwriting's getting terrible here, a 180, that's angles, whatever, do not, make sure you do that, comma, then the angles do not form linear pair. Switched and put in the knots for the original statement. You always go back to the original. All right, and then these last few problems are just basic parts of what would be a proof. I want the one step that makes this proof, or this proof is showing you here. When I look at number 19, I see I've got parallel lines already. Okay, so I'm going to think about what relationship is. This X and Y, what are they to each other? You know, we did this on the front. So those are corresponding angles are congruent. And we're not just saying what type angles are, we're saying the postulate. So you got to have the whole rule out. Corresponding angles are congruent when what? The lines are parallel. So you can abbreviate it like that. Corresponding angles, you don't have to put R, you can just put congruent when the lines are parallel. Okay? You can abbreviate it, but make sure you put the part, especially the part about the parallel. All right? The middle one, you have a segment bar, right? It's just a segment, it's not angles. Know the difference, come on. XY, this segment, added to YZ, that segment, equals XZ, the whole thing. We've been over that several times. segment, addition, postulate. Now, just because you see an adding sign doesn't mean that's what's going on. Okay, we know that that's a segment on there. All right, and then finally, let me get out of the way. All right, finally, on 21, it's not saying A is parallel to B given to you. I'm asking you, why would A be parallel to B? So this is that special case. Notice these over here on number 19 had the hatch mark telling you that those are parallels. We don't have that here. We don't know that A is parallel to B. We just know we've got the hundreds matching each other. So we got to figure out first, what is that position of those hundreds? Are they both interior? Are they both exterior? And these two are exterior. They are on the alternate side, so alternate exterior angles, right? But it's not when the lines are parallel. I don't have parallels. I'm asking you what makes them parallel. So this is the converse of the rule. So the regular rule would be alternate, just like number 19. This would say something like alternate exterior angles are congruent when the lines are parallel. Well, I'm giving you they're matching already. We're flipping it around. When you have, or we're saying if, we're saying if the alternate exterior angles are equal, congruent, all right? If they're congruent, then you will have parallels. So this is the result, is to make it have parallels. All you got to think about that one though, when you don't have a parallel, I'm asking you, why do you have parallels? We didn't have a definition of parallel, did we? You just think, okay, that's one of those weird converse rules. What kind of angles do I have? Alternate exterior angles, and you write converse after that name. And so that means this rule has been switched around. It could have been like this where I had the parallels, but I'm trying to prove they're parallel. So I've flipped it around and I'm giving the angles first, then I'm going to make them be parallel because the angles match. So you just write converse when you're having to look for that angle with those parallels. Not see, these were looking for angles. This one's looking for parallels. You don't put definition of parallel. All right.